Hello, Havenites. Much like the video on friendship relationships, this next one details the family side of things in relation to me. The lesson:
Family relationships.
the day in question, also known to me later on that evening as an unfortunate nightmare from hell with me later on that evening, had actually began fine. I recall earlier that day how I had gone with my mom on an errand around town where we first stopped at the public library to pick up a book that she was waiting to read. Here, I had witnessed one of my students from my college internship inside of a sixth grade classroom that I was a part of months earlier in the year in January. Then, I was surprised that he had managed to remember me and that he acknowledged me at the time as, "Hello, Mr. L." After the library, my mom and I had stopped at one of the discount grocery stores in my hometown in order to pick up something to eat for dinner that night. Finally, we had made the trek back home again. That night, dinner was excellent. I recall having cheeseburgers with one of my favorite types of side salads and a pasta salad. Yum, yum, delicious. After dinner was where my night on this night had begun to get upsetting and rowdy. Viewer discretion is advised. I recall just coming back from the bathroom and on my way back inside to my own bedroom of the house then when I had saw my mom just arriving back into the house after delivering some food over to that jealous piece of mooching slime and brother of mine named David, currently living at the time up the road in his camper location, still on my parents' property then. My mom was about to sit comfortably in her chair to watch TV and unwind for the evening before bed when I had suddenly confronted her. Remembering how David had rudely treated my older sister named Kathy back on Thursday, May 26th, by rudely kicking her hard in the stomach region then, plus all the other various times from before since the spring of 2004, according to this series of videos, that David had caused me grief and heartache with his selfish, jealous attitude toward me or about me, I decided that I had finally had enough. In general, I had snapped. To quote Popeye, I stanced all that I can stance until I can't stance no more. So when I had suddenly grabbed my mom around the neck region briefly, it was only a spur of the moment type situation. Like when one of my mom's and older sister named Kathy's physical arguments earlier on into my childhood when I was younger years ago, where they would suddenly be throwing dishes at each other due to my older sister named Kathy not getting her way in the store when she wanted something then. Immediately after I had suddenly grabbed my mom by the neck region was again, as I previously said, one of those quick spur of the moment type moments that even as I look back onto it now, I am not only feeling apologetic for it, but I am also embarrassed to still be talking about it today. I'm sorry. After suddenly grabbing my mom around the neck region briefly, I had suddenly realized my mistake and I had quickly let go myself. Something that 1 year later, another jealous relative of my family had to be physically pulled off of me when he had me in a dangerous chokehold himself onto the ground then, and he wouldn't seem to let go himself without teaching me some kind of lesson in the end, which I had learned. And I had ended up seriously injured, requiring hospitalization surgery later to my face region, thanks to him and that incident from 1 year later. After the sudden incident with me and my mom, I recall how I am now back inside of my bedroom where I am now crying hard onto my pillow face down in shame. I guess that after I had let go of my mom's neck and came back into my bedroom in order to cry onto my pillow on my bed like a scared little schoolgirl, my mom had next called my younger sister named Jolie to come right over. When Joliet came over, I recall her talking to me calmly about what I had done and how I had acted. After calmly talking with Jolie, then, I was starting to feel better. That was until the unthinkable had happened to make things much worse for me. How dare that turd and jealous slimeball brother of mine named David finally choose to come over in order to scream at me for what I had done to our mother? It was only an accident, for crying out loud. I had never meant any of it. Maybe if that jealous slimeball turd brother of mine named David had been much nicer to me and supposedly treated me over the years like a loving sibling to be proud of and looked up to, instead of someone to be jealous of because I had done things up to that point that he hadn't accomplished, nor would he ever seem to accomplish, then maybe things might have been a tad different between us then, and I wouldn't have envisioned Mom as David that I was really trying to choke out in anger and frustration from over the years then. How David had found out what I had done to our mom was that my older sister named Kathy had backstabbed me then by walking up to his camper as I was starting to wind down with my frustrations with our mom and go back to my private bedroom to finally chill out some myself after the incident. With this bit of treachery on Kathy's behalf against me, made me feel like then how several years later someone on my Facebook friend list had ratted me out in 2024 over one of my previous videos that's still currently right here on my YouTube channel here that they were offended by then. Unbelievable! And to think, going back to Friday, July 8th in 2011, I was literally fighting Kathy's battle for her from the end of May in 2011 that year. As I said, unbelievable that Kathy would choose to turn on me and backstab me just to go to our enemy at the time. When David had finally came over, I was in the middle of a calm discussion with my then caring and considerate younger sister named Julie at the time about what had happened between Mom and I. I was on the verge of finally beginning to fully feel better when that jealous slime bucket brother of mine named David had came over and interrupted mine and Jolie's comforting conversation together then. It was basically in the shape of a three-way argument conversation now, with Jolie literally stuck in the middle at my doorway and David far outside of my bedroom at the front doorway to my parents' trailer home than talking with me. David's involvement was so not needed. Just like what he would next do that was so not needed as well from a bunch of pathetic, corrupt, hick pigs heading the criminal justice system in my hometown. Petui. After not getting through to me enough, with Julie caught in the middle at my doorway, and when David and her and I were having our three-way conversation, then David had decided to use his phone to quickly call the cops onto me shortly after. Now remember how I had said earlier in part 1 of this video how I had called the police onto David back in March over David intimidating me at the time by pounding onto my window while I was trying to nap then? Well, this incident happening between me and Mom was his retaliation from that incident against me. I was hoping that by the time that the bogus police from my hometown had come again, that it might be like that from back in March of 2011 again, with nothing seeming to happen and only written reports being filed like back in March of 2011. But as you will soon find out, nope. The opposite had happened.
What the fuck?
After David had said this threat to me in my direction and twiddled his thumbs to his phone screen in order to jealously make that call against me, this was at the time that my younger sister named Jolie had finally decided to leave me alone in order to possibly converse with our parents. So I was left alone in my bedroom at last, where I decided to shut my door. Quiet had felt and done me good. Would this quiet seem to last? Fuck no. A short time later, though it had felt like hours, there was a loud knock onto my bedroom door. The voice had sounded familiar. I had thought that it sounded like one of my nephews in my family at the time. But no. Upon opening my bedroom door, it was a member of the bogus fucking dicks representing the corrupt Yates County Sheriff's Office in my hometown. The pathetic scumbag jerk representing them was named Chad Betts. Mr. Betts had kindly asked me to step out of the safety that was my private bedroom at home when trouble had arisen. I was willing to do that at first, though I had felt skeptical, thinking that I had thought that the problem had solved itself already without any police involvement whatsoever. Why was Chad Betts even here was what I was ultimately thinking. But the bigger question was, what exactly could my jealous piece of slime brother of mine named David have said to butter the situation in his favor against me, given our intense history together at that point? Once I had stepped out of my door of my bedroom and while into the hallway of my then home, I was immediately patted down for anything sharp on me outside of my bedroom door by the scum that's named Chad Betts. And then I was immediately led outside by Chad Betts, of course, and directly into Chad Betts' squad car next to his then barking dog, where I was temporarily detained. Why couldn't this have happened inside of my then home, directly at my bedroom doorway, or even inside of my bedroom at home, where that pathetic dick named Chad Betts and I could have had our conversation instead? My bedroom was my comforting sanctuary whenever trouble had arisen. My family should have remembered this. While I was detained in the back seat of Chad Betts' car, next to a scary barking dog, I recall next that scary fucked up dickhead named Chad Betts representing the Yates County Sheriff's Office in my hometown, then opening up the door of his patrol car, where I was detained and housed. I had thought that he was going to let me go with the warning shot, something that should have happened several years later on Monday, February 12, 2018, at the Dundee School, with me and that Facebook comment that the school was so bothered by then that I had made, that I had later deleted 3 weeks before I was ultimately fired from my job there over it, after people online were complaining about it before it had reached the school's eyes later. But no. When Chad Betts had opened the door to his squad car where I was temporarily detained and housed, it was only to handcuff me. Wow. So much for a warning shot. I mean, I never had a legal pass then before.
What the fuck?
But that was not the end of my grudge with that fucking jerk representative from the Yates County Sheriff's Office named Chad Betts. Oh, no, 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 no. On the way up to the hospital for a mental health checkup for me, Chad Betts was insinuating, while talking with me, of course, that I was now a criminal, marked for life now, due to my actions against my mom. Chad Betts had no right to utter that statement to me, at all. I am no criminal, just misunderstood. Something that he would have known nothing about, given what that jealous piece of shit and brother of mine named David might have told him when he had called for him as a deputy representative from the Yates County Sheriff's Office earlier, thanks to his frantic 911 call then. In other words, going back to what Chad said, about me being now a criminal marked for life, Chad Betts didn't see shit, okay? The only ones that saw me grabbing my mom briefly around the neck were my dad and my older sister named Kathy, and I know neither one of them would have squealed on me to the police, unlike my jealous piece of shit brother of mine named David. After Chad Betts chatting with me briefly about me now being considered a criminal, again, something that he knew nothing about since he wasn't there to witness anything firsthand, and I thought you had to have like a firsthand account, like video evidence or audio evidence to know that a crime had taken place. I recall next how I politely asked that fucking jerk named Chad Betts to kindly turn down his radio for me, which was, at the time, blasting really loudly then onto some rock music station. My brother named David used to pull that shit with me at various times in the car in our past, as well as my college roommates from college that I had roomed with back in the day, and I had hated it. It was so annoying and not to mention rude at the time. It's luckily that I'm not currently deaf in the ears today or for having been around that. Would I get a kind reply back from the fucking jerk named Chad Betts to kindly obey my request and turn down his loud music in the car for me? Fuck no. Instead, the fucking asshole prick named Chad Betts, I recall, had retorted back to me that it was his car. If he had wanted his music really loud, as it was at the time, then there wasn't a damn thing that I could ultimately do about it. Not that I really could, anyway. My hands were then handcuffed in a front position to my body, remember, in a cramped back seat with a barking dog next to me, and I'm wearing my flip-flop sandals on my feet, and there's a partition barricade in front of me separating between me and Chad Betts in the patrol car. After denying my request to turn down his loud music for me, Chad Betts' response to me was this: "Shut the fuck up." Urgh. I really can't believe that all these years later, going on 15 now, as of 2026, and in this video, that I would even hear scum like him utter to an innocent civilian like me to just shut the fuck up. Shocking news from a representative from someone who is supposed to be a representation of an organization designed to help those in need. Protect and serve? Yeah, right. Upon finally arriving at the hospital and in the parking lot area, Chad Betts gets out first, and he physically yanks me out of his small patrol car hard, and he utterly pushes me forward toward the hospital entrance like someone else from my family who would later get angry and physical with me several years ago later had ended up doing then in the summer of 2022. Once we are finally inside of the hospital for my mental health checkup, I recall asking Chad Betts to please remove my handcuffs. Would he? At first, no. It had finally taken a stern, hard look from one of the nearby nurses to finally get the selfish, cocky prick named Chad Betts to finally comply in my favor. The handcuffs were finally removed. It is now nearing 9 p.m. on Friday, July 8th in 2011. I could have been at home in my bedroom at this time in the middle of watching an episode of WWE SmackDown on TV. But no, I am still currently stuck inside of a hospital room being interviewed by a random psychiatrist trying to examine me. Just as the psychiatrist was getting ready to leave, I was getting ready to leave myself. But no, I am told to stay in the hospital room. Shortly later, another bogus cop representative from the corrupt Yates County Sheriff's Office had now arrived. I am handcuffed yet again, escorted outside into another patrol car, and this time brought to jail for the weekend. So much for my fun, relaxing weekend. Actually, and looking back now, I was never formally read my Miranda rights from Chad Betts before, nor from that second cop from the Yates County Sheriff's Office picking me up hours later from the hospital en route to me being taken to jail for the weekend from the hospital then. So my one and only brush with the law, arrest to date, is now tainted, if you think about it. I recall that second deputy just being there in that hospital room to escort me out in handcuffs into the back of his squad car then at the time, and he had never said anything to me with regards to my Miranda rights being read by him directly to me. So as far as I can throw, I was never even arrested by the scum representing the Yates County Sheriff's Office then on that night on Friday, July 8th in 2011. There isn't any audio or video proof as far as I can guess to prove this, since that was the days before all cops were now required to wear video cameras onto their uniforms now today. As a result, consider me spending a weekend in jail then for that weekend in the summer of 2011 to just end up being a lesson learned by me instead. That was all. The end. As an update about our friend from the Yates County Sheriff's Office named Chad Betts, I am utterly appalled how years later, on Saturday, February 24th, in 2024, that there was an article published to the news media in my hometown which had publicly congratulated not only Chad Betts, but also another employee from the corrupt Yates County Sheriff's Office, honoring these pathetic scum with their 20 years of service. As for Chad Betts, that pathetic asshole prick didn't deserve any recognition. In fact, and later in the summer of 2011, I had gone to the Yates County Sheriff's Office myself then with my dad at the time to finally report Chad Betts for his actions against me from the evening of Friday, July 8th, and Chad Betts and my encounter together in his squad car and at the hospital that night. Would anything be done in my favor then? Fuck no. Cops on one side, innocent civilians like me on the other. Forget your politics. Chad Betts had actually gotten away with his extremely criminal, harsh, police brutality-like behavior against me then by yelling, yanking me out of a car, and pushing me forward out of a squad car, just like another fucking rogue pig from the Yates County Sheriff's Office at the time, named Rick Simpson, had later done in February of 2018. Rick Simpson had actually physically committed disorderly conduct against my parents' motor vehicle at the time on Monday, February 12th, 2018, after school in the parking lot area of the Dundee School then, when he had loudly pounded his fat fucking fist onto the hood of my parents' then 2009 Dodge Avenger vehicle, just like my brother David had done to my bedroom window at the time then in March of 2011 when he was trying to intimidate me back in March of 2011, as I previously said. A few years later, in 2020, before the global pandemic that we all had experienced, Rick Simpson was honored by the Yates County Sheriff's Office with a big yada 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 retirement, honoring for his years of service with the Yates County Sheriff's Office. Like Chad Betts, Rick Simpson ought to have been fired. You got that? Fired before his retirement. For not only treating me bad, but also my parents on that glorious, unforgettable day of Monday, February 12th in 2018. When I had tried complaining about all of this at the time, it didn't do me much good at all. Forget your politics. Pathetic scum like Chad Betts and Rick Simpson did not deserve to later be honored. Again, like I said, they deserve to be fired. Got that? Fired. They deserve to be dishonored further as a result for how they had treated not only just me, but literally also to my parents with regards to Rick Simpson on Monday, February 12th in 2018. Absolutely criminal. I believe what Rick Simpson had perpetrated under my parents' automobile then was what we might call in legal jargon as criminal mischief, which he had unfortunately gotten away with. That's not right. Please let me know in the comments or privately via email message to me directly if you can relate with any similar stories of police brutality or cops abusing their power against you as had previously happened to me. Together, we all can help stand up and prevent what scum cops like Betts and Simpson had done to both me and my parents from ever happening again. In fact, Chad Betts still owes me a long overdue apology for his unfair treatment to me from that night on Friday, July 8th in 2011 that's considered to me now to be a nightmare from hell. As of this year now, in 2026, and as of this video, the calendar is now ticking toward 15 years. If I don't get a meaningful apology soon from Chad Betts, and he has actually meant it to me, I may just finally continue to wait on the karma fairy to use as a weapon against Chad Betts and wait for them to finally inflict a traumatic apology out of him for me instead, like that fairy kindly would do for me a few years later against a couple of members of my family that chose to fuck with me. While we wait, I have prepared a short little song about my interaction with Chad Betts. Here goes. Respect to the predecessor. I acknowledge the former Sheriff Spike. But the current Sheriff Ryan, can you make one change for me? Chad Betts, can you fire Chad Betts? He is a crooked cop, yanking me out of a car and pushing me forward. Chad Betts, he is a piece of trash. Chad Betts, he did not deserve to be honored. Oh no, 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 no. Chad Betts, can you fire Chad Betts? Please and thank you. Looking back now, there was no need for the scum representing the corrupt Yates County Sheriff's Office to even get involved with me on the evening of Friday, July 8th in 2011. The only reason why they did was because a jealous turd, brother of mine in my family then named David, who was trying to retaliate against me for phoning the police onto him months before in March of 2011, for him loudly pounding onto my window in intimidation then while I was trying to sleep then. There was no physical damage perpetrated by me onto my mom then from that evening of July 8th in 2011 when I had briefly grabbed her. Let alone was there no heat and sudden beef between both my mom and I before and after. It was all just a misunderstanding then. I love my mom, and I always will. I'm sorry.
I love you.
I was already separated from the conflict long before the police were even unnecessarily called into my own bedroom of the house then, trying to calm down in my own way myself. Just like years later with regards to a comment that I had made onto social media in 2018. After things had gone wrong, I had learned from my mistake and compromised by removing my comment in compliance to save face for myself and others that it may have offended before a bogus and corrupt local school district would ultimately later get involved due to a narking snake scumbag on social media and in my hometown community against me then.
What the fuck?
My actions from Friday, July 8th in 2011 and my later action from the end of January in 2018 leading into Monday, February 12th in 2018, where I was later terminated from my job at a local school district in Dundee School over the comment were only supposed to be a warning shot fired on my behalf not an arrest and a job termination as had actually happened then. To refer to a scene from one of my favorite sci-fi movies titled The Butterfly Effect, starring Ashton Kutcher, I wish that I could go back in time now and use my journal, my stress journal, actually, to reread the event that I had wrote down describing Friday, July 8th in 2011, and as I am reading this entry, I can travel backward in time like Ashton Kutcher's character from the movie did. And before the police had been called by that jealous turd brother of mine named David, I wish I would have been brave enough to just grab David's cell phone out of his hands and quickly run away with it myself, along with the other phone from my parents' house, safely back into my private bedroom, close my door, and barricade it. And this would be where not only David, but the remainder of my family could not seem to touch me and follow me. Because nobody touches me or is supposed to touch me in my safe haven, that being my former bedroom in my former home with my parents. The police never should have been called to begin with. There was no real emergency then for them to answer to back on Friday, July 8, 2011. The only thing that there was still an apparent jealousy conflict due to sibling rivalry between David and I. And to quote one of my plays that I have previously written, The Fantasy About Finals, a line from that, the war between David and I was a battle between two brothers. That was all. As the year 2011 was slowly drawing to a close, I was pretty excited. Yeah. It was exactly on Tuesday, December 27th of that year that 2 late Christmas miracles had arrived for me. One, earlier in the morning, about 3 a.m., was the arrival of my soon-to-be loving pet dog and loyal animal best friend to me that I had chose to name Emma, after one of my favorite Harry Potter series actresses at the time. The following is a special song documenting my love for my dog named Emma. Enjoy. You are my buddy until the end, more than a buddy, you're my best friend. I love you more than you will ever know. I will never let you go.
I love you.
The other late Christmas miracle had finally came after 2 p.m. later that day on December 27th in 2011. I had appeared in court for my final court appearance for that legal charge mess on my record from Friday, July 8th in 2011 that, again, never should have been there to begin with. After reading my multi-page essay that I had written fully explaining the backstory that inconsiderate turd fucker named Chad Betts from the bogus and corrupt Yates County Sheriff's Office had failed to fully understand while we were speaking in his squad car back on Friday, July 8th, and specifically then to those present in the court that day on December 27th when I was reading to the court then. I was pleased to discover that the judge felt no recourse to proceed further with prosecuting against me and my one and only legal charge and brush with the law was finally dismissed at long last. The judge had finally understood me and my lengthy story that I was building to at the time, unlike Chad Betts. It certainly pays for me being a great writer and storyteller as I currently am now, today. In order for my legal charge to become properly dismissed, though, I was asked to complete a 90-day stay at a local inpatient hospital where some psychiatrists would try to examine me further for a apparent mental defect. If 90 days had passed and I didn't go to an inpatient hospital, then I was supposed to be fully cleared and the legal charge was supposed to be fully expunged from my record at long last already. H name's Rock. Like, subscribe, and come back for more.